Hey everyone, welcome to the Building of Force Divided, a full React 19 app for Star Wars fans to share their takes on the original trilogy. What you're seeing is a beautiful, if I do say so myself, and responsive landing page with immersive styling. But more importantly, it's built with core React concepts that come up in every single job interview or test you might have to take. So I want this episode to double as kind of an interview prep and sort of just go through what's been going on with React after 18, version 18. I'll explain exactly why we do the things we're doing, linking to the documentation alongside this, and hopefully afterwards you will have a much better understanding of how a React app works and how to make your own. All right, coders, before we move more into the Force Divided, we're going to be leveling up your basic React skills, and this will be pretty quick. We're going to cover some core fundamentals that power our entire app, and they are absolute gold for interviews. So this is something that you're going to want to know inside and out. JSX, components, props, lists, and a few more things that we're going to get into. Not just what they are, but why they make code clean and powerful. All right, let's dive in. First, JSX. It's the magic that lets you write HTML-like code inside JavaScript. Not real HTML. It compiles to React. We use the create element here for its blazing speed. Check out our app.tsx. That root div uses class name camel case, not class. Embedded components like header and dynamic stuff goes in the curly braces. Key rules. Single parent element or use fragments, an empty bracket, close empty bracket. Class name camel cased because class is a reserved word in JavaScript. Self-closing tags always have a backslash, like your image tag. Make sure it ends with a slash. Expressions in curly braces, and no if statements. Use ternaries instead. Why love JSX? It's crystal clear. It combines logic and markup. Pair that with TypeScript's type safety, and boom, you've got an epic landing page and no messy DOM manipulations. Next up, components. These are the building blocks of React. Reusable UI pieces that take props and return JSX. The movie card is the most advanced component we currently have on this app. It's a functional component, which means it starts with a capital letter, M in this case, and it accepts props like title, episode, and it returns a Tailwind based card. We use them everywhere, components. The header, the logo, the multiple movie cards. Why? Reuse. You can use the same card, add in different data, and you get different movies. This is clean, organized, and incredibly scalable. That's how we build this responsive grid with no code duplication. ProMove. We loaded a Tailwind component library. Grab pre-built ones instead of reinventing the wheel every time. Just bringing in Tailwind isn't enough. You're going to want to get a component library that's been built with Tailwind. Otherwise, you're going to have to completely make all the components yourself. All right, next, one of the coolest props, short for properties. How parents pass data to children. Now, these are read-only, so no mutating, no altering them. The normal way how it used to be done is you would pass things one at a time. Title equals movie.title. Episode equals movie.episode. Boring and long. And if your data changed down the line, then you had to go back and edit whatever that was or add to it. There is a better way. Boom. Prop spreading with three dots and movie. Now, by putting those three dots, we spread every key as an individual property. It's way less code, it's dynamic, and it auto updates if you change the data later on. It's a huge time saver. Even more if we combine that with the .map function, which transforms arrays into component lists. This is the cleanest, quickest, best way to render data in React. All right, so spreading is powerful. This is something that you might want to watch out for in an interview, but watch out for extra prop clutter. And the key prop must be explicit. Even if the object you're passing has an ID, you can't rely on that. You have to explicitly pass ID equals whatever and then spread your props. All right, so that's the React fundamentals, JSX for clarity, components for reuse, props for data flow, and the .map function to display that data. Now, something you're going to want to know about the .map function is that it takes an array, in this case an array of movies, and transforms each item into JSX, where React can then render that. That's different than the for each function, which is just going to loop through the items. So that's why we use .map and not .for each. Okay, have you ever wondered how your React app magically appears on the screen, how all this code gets processed? And we're just going to break that down step by step, the full boot up and lifecycle process, just like you'd have to explain to someone in an interview or whatever. And we'll briefly touch on why React DOM.render got deprecated and how createRoot is superior, and the entire React component lifecycle in modern apps. I'm talking React 19 plus as of late 2025. So the boot up process from HTML to live app, your browser loads the index.html file. It finds an empty div, that's your empty point, no React yet. Your bundle runs, that would be main.tsx or index.js, where it imports createRoot from the React DOM client, and this is where you would put your strict mode if you're using strict mode. The app component then renders, that React builds a component tree app, and then inside that renders header, background, roots, the movies.map, spits out multiple movies card components, etc. Then React reconciles and commits. It diffs the virtual DOM, then paints real changes to the browser's DOM, and bam, that's how your site is live. Now, React DOM.render was deprecated and is actually been removed, and so everything now uses the createRoot. This batches all of your updates, and it supports transitions, and it allows for React to kind of interrupt its rendering or do parallel rendering and stuff. It's just a much better system. So the full component lifecycle from mount to unmount in modern Reacts, which is hooks dominant. We don't use class lifecycle methods much. Use effect handles side effects, but understanding these phases is key. One, mounting. The component is born and added to the DOM. This would be your constructor, your initial state setup. Your component function runs, returns some JSX. React builds the tree out of that. React applies the changes to the real DOM. Your layout effects run, and then the browser paints and you see the UI. For updating, the prop or the state changes, the re-render phase occurs, and then the commit phase, clean up the old effects, layout effects fire again. React is smart. It skips unchanged subtrees for speed, so it's only updating what's been changed. Now, when a component is unmounted or removed, the parent stops rendering it. The cleanup effects, the use effect function runs, cancels timers, unsubscribes, and prevents memory leak, and then that DOM node is removed. Now, in development, strict mode double mounts to catch bugs. This is just part of how it works, and that's the life cycle in a nutshell. Mount, setup, update, react to changes, and then unmount, cleanup. With createRoot, everything runs concurrently for buttery smooth performance. This is how your app goes from a blank page to an interactive masterpiece. Nail that explanation and you'll crush any React interview. Okay, now we're getting towards the end of this. Hopefully you're still paying attention. This is where we're going to get into using state management with hooks. And so use state and use effects. These two things are very important, and these are interview favorites, so pay close attention. First, use state. This is the easiest way to add local state to a functional component. Look, if you check out our header file, you can say we have constant is dark, set is dark equals use state true. Boom, right there, use state returns an array, the current value, and setter function. We destructure it. Is dark is a state, set is dark is how we update it. call setIsDark false, React re-renders the component with the new value. Before hooks, only class components had state. Now functional components, those with the capital letter, get it as well. This is cleaner, simpler, and more reusable code. The pro move initial value can be a value or even a function for an expensive setup. Now, use state equals local reactive state and done. Okay, so use effects section. Next, the powerhouse use effect. For side effects, API calls, subscriptions, manual DOM stuff. If you check out again in our header file, we have use effect, where dark mode equals document element.classlist contains dark. Set is dark, dark mode. What happens with that? The effect runs after the component mounts. We check if the HTML has dark classes and sync it to our state. That empty array, that's the dependency array. Dependency rules, empty runs once on mount, perfect for setup initial fetches. If we put some value in there, it runs on mount and when some value changes. And if there's no array at all, it runs after every render, and that's usually a bug. Avoid that. Don't do that. So use effect can also return a cleanup function, cancel timers, unsubscribe, prevent leaks. Yeah, so the side effects, this is your hook. The rules of hooks, but break these rules and React breaks. Rule 1, only call hooks at the top level. No loops, no ifs, no nested functions. Rule 2, only call hooks inside React functions, components or custom hooks. Rule 3, hooks must be called in the same order every render. React tracks them by order, so no skipping. Follow these and your app stays happy. There it is. Use state for reactive state and use effect for side effects, and always respect the rules. Those two hooks power 90% of real-world state management. And now you're ready to handle dark mode, data fetching, and more like a pro. Okay, so that's pretty much the basics of this React app covered. I really just wanted to get this video kind of put together and detail what's going on so far with the force divided. I really think it's going to be a great example learning app when it's done. In the future videos, we're going to go into the more complicated stuff, like how we fetch data from the Star Wars API and have user authentication, just the more advanced functions and features of React. I wanted to keep this video a pretty simple and basic introduction to the core concepts, like how things get on the page, the life cycle, the basic fundamentals of React. Hopefully you really found it refreshing or interesting. The link to the repository to play around with the code is in the description. And yeah, thanks for watching. I